we're going to talk about how to apply for the EB-5 visa, a step-by-step, because many of you have been texting me and asking me, just to kind of break down the whole process. So from the investor perspective, if you're deciding to apply for an EB-5 visa, we have three main steps in the EB-5 process. So that's the initial petition, I-526, then conversion and actually receiving the main green card and a waiting period, and then removal of conditions. So let's start from the beginning. If you're considering the EB-5 visa today, so the first thing that I would recommend that you do is actually speak to your immigration attorney or an immigration attorney who understands the EB-5 program well, because you want to compare other options with EB-5 to determine if that's the right strategy. So once you've determined that the EB-5 investor visa is the right process for you, you can start working with an immigration attorney on the collection of the source of funds documents. So the role of an immigration attorney in the EB-5 process is to work with you to collect documents showing that the funds you plan to invest were acquired lawfully. Keep in mind also that if you're using source of funds, there are no requirements that these funds have to originate from abroad. So it could be funds that you have earned in the United States or a relative has gifted you. The funds can be from the US or from abroad as long as they were derived lawfully. They can also be borrowed. So if you were here working in a work visa and you have lawful income and you want to apply it towards your EB-5 petition, that is totally acceptable. So step one, speak to the immigration attorney and start working on your lawful source of funds documentation. And then in parallel, so don't put one off for the other. At the same time, you want to start looking at different EB-5 project options. Now, it can be very confusing because there are hundreds of different project options that may be available at any given time, and they're not all created equal. Some are stronger, some are weaker, some are with experienced developers, some are with very new developers. So obviously, I recommend using appropriate professionals to select the project. You can be working with a licensed FINRA broker, especially one that specializes in EB-5 projects. So I am one of those brokers. I used to be a practicing immigration attorney. For the last few years, I have been an investment broker specializing in EB-5 projects. So your initial step is working with your immigration attorney and preparing your lawful source of funds documents, and in parallel, working with your FINRA licensed professional on selecting a project. Once you have looked through the different project options and you determined which project you want to invest in, you wait for the go-ahead from your immigration attorney. And so if the immigration attorney confirms that they reviewed your documents and everything looks good, then you can wire to the project. And with the confirmation of that wire from the project, your immigration attorney can file I-526 petition. So that from beginning to the filing of the I-526 petition, this step usually takes from 1 to 3 months. Some people move a little faster, some people move a little slower, but a comfortable, speed is between 2 and 3 months. So I also recommend not putting this process off if you have a deadline, right? So 1 to 3 months, you prepared your source of funds documents, picked your project you invested in, you filed your I-526 petition. Then you wait for that petition to be adjudicated. Also, if you're in the United States and you're here lawfully, you may be eligible to file what's called a concurrent adjustment together with your I-526E petition. That is where you ask the government to switch you from your non-immigrant visa, so say if it's a student visa or an E2 visa, to the future immigrant visa or green card. And by filing a concurrent adjustment, you basically get to remain lawfully in the United States while you wait for your I-526 petition to be adjudicated. So step one, I-526, we have filed, then we hang out and we wait for that approval. Now, the approval of the I-526 really varies. If you go into rural projects, the approval speed has been on average faster, around 6 months. If you selected an urban project, the processing times are between a year and 2 years. So for about 6 months to a year and a half, you hang out and you wait for your I-526 petition to be adjudicated. Once your I-526 petition is approved, we go to step 2, which is the green card processing. There are 2 different ways to do step 2. If you are physically in the United States, you can proceed with the adjustment of status, either because you already filed the application with the I-526 and you're waiting for it to be adjudicated, or you can file that application after your I-526 was approved. The adjustment of status process on average takes another 6 months after the I-526 approval. At the end of that process, you get your green card, your conditional green card. The other method to do step 2 is through consular processing. So say you're doing this from abroad, you're in France, you filed your I-526, it got approved. Once it gets approved, you do what's called consular processing. That's when you and your immigration attorney file your biographical documents with the National Visa Center. They process it, send it to the consulate in your home country, and you will go to the US consulate in your home country, do an immigrant interview, and you will receive what's called an immigrant entry visa. Once you fly on that visa to the United States, the day you physically cross the border on your immigrant visa, you become a resident and your green card arrives within a few weeks in the mail. So step 1, file the I-526 or I-526E petition, then wait 6 months to 12 months and go to step 2 and either do adjustment of status or consular processing. So the adjustment of status or consular processing, they take approximately 6 to, I would say, 10 months on average for a lot of people. And at the end of step 2, you are a permanent resident. Now, you will receive conditional permanent residency. So what that means is you have the rights of the permanent resident. However, you need to meet certain conditions. So once you're a conditional permanent resident, you get 2 years of free time. You don't have to file anything with USCIS. You can start living in the US, working, traveling on your green card. And then we go into step 3. 2 years after you got your conditional green card, we proceed to step 3, which is removing your conditions. You work with your immigration attorney to file what's called an I-829 petition to remove conditions. In that petition, you present mostly project documents to show that the project was built in accordance with the business plan and the jobs were created. So if you're working through a regional center, the regional center will actually prepare the package, send it to your immigration attorney, and your immigration attorney files it with USCIS. And that's step 3, filing the I-829 petition to remove conditions. It is super important that you keep track of this step because you absolutely have to file within 3 months before the expiration of your green card. If you miss that window, the green card cannot be extended, it's going to expire. So it is a mandatory step. Step 3, I-829 petition to remove conditions. It's something that's mandatory. It's not usually super difficult because, like I said, if you're working with a good project, they will present the full package to you to file, but it is a mandatory step. Once you file your I-829 petition, you wait again for it to be adjudicated. Now, what happens to your existing green card? It gets automatically extended. So once you file the I-829, USCIS will send you a letter that automatically extends your permanent residency, usually between 18 months to a few years, to allow them to adjudicate the I-829 petition. So you will have your expired green card and this letter extending the status, and you can still continue to travel and live in the US as a permanent resident. And then how long does it take for USCIS to review the removal of conditions petitions? That really varies depending on what year. We had periods of time where it was taking them 3 to 4 years to adjudicate. Lately, they've gotten much better, and I'm seeing adjudications in about 6 to 8 months. So just kind of depends on what's going on in the immigration world. But the entire time your I-299 is pending, you continue to be lawful resident. Once the removal of conditions petition is reviewed and approved by immigration, you will receive your permanent resident status. The actual document, the green card that will arrive in the mail, is for a 10-year, has a 10-year expiration date, but your status is for life. So every 10 years you renew the document. But once the conditions have been met, they remove the conditions off of your green card, and you can continue to live as a resident. What's nice about the EB-5 program is 5 years from the day you receive your conditional green card, you are eligible to get your citizenship. So you can, if as long as you've been living in the United States and complying with all the requirements, 5 years from the day of the original green card, you become eligible for citizenship. All right, I'm working from home today and I'm doing this live from my home office. And I'm really hoping that you guys cannot hear the neighbor's dogs that just got, apparently the neighbor's dogs went outside. And so now my dogs and their dogs are communicating quite loudly. So hopefully it's in the background and you guys cannot hear this. All right, so I'm gonna quickly check for questions, but that covers our little mini crash course. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to sort of drop them in the comments. Also, I'm starting to do these sessions, these live sessions every Friday. I'm going to do them through YouTube just because we can build an archive and people who miss the live session can go and listen in the following week. But subscribe, send me your questions. I'm Irina Rostova. I'm both an attorney and a FINRA licensed investment broker. I specialize in the EB-5 program, have been working with this program for now 14 years. So I'm happy to answer any EB-5 questions you may have. Take care.